through a lot of floods.
Okay.
It certainly is extremely useful to have somewhere to go that's above the water. There you can put stuff, you can
But isn't your
quickly trying to put tools and all upstairs in the kitchen and all. Quite frankly, we do stay there during a flood.
okay? Gary was just asking whether or not, I mean, you talked about your mitigation as being the removal of the knotweed. And do you have like actual verification that the knotweed exists in that area? Because typically if you're going to do mitigation, you have to document that there's a problem there to start with. You're looking at me
Actually, in
kind
all
of
practice, while I'm thinking to myself, I didn't take pictures of it, I think you did. That at one point when you came down with the shopping carts and you took pictures of it, it was just,
So
I think,
is that the same area?
Yeah.
The shopping cart
yes,
area?
right. Having lived through a lot of floods,
Okay.
it certainly is extremely useful to have somewhere to go that's above the water. There you can put stuff, you can
But isn't your
quickly trying to put tools and all upstairs in the kitchen and all. Quite frankly, we do stay there during a flood.
okay.
The house is above the 100-year
Well,
flood
that's
level.
what I was looking at.
So we can live there, but in terms of where to move stuff quickly, when floods happen, they happen quickly.
Right.
You don't know that they're coming. The last one, at one point we had like 6 hours of notice. It was fast moving.
We're going to use that upper area as a workshop anyway.
Right.
So you have, Gary was just asking whether or not, I mean, you talked,
Having lived through a lot of floods,
Okay.
it certainly is extremely useful. Having lived through a lot of floods,
Okay.
it certainly is extremely useful to have somewhere to go that's above the water. There you can put stuff, you can
but isn't your,
quickly trying to put tools and all upstairs in the kitchen and all. Quite frankly, we do stay there during a flood.
okay.
The house is above the 100-year
Well,
flood
that's
level.
what I was looking at.
So we can live there, but in terms of where to move stuff quickly, when floods happen, they happen quickly.
Right.
You don't know that they're coming. The last one, at one point we had like 6 hours of notice. It was fast moving. And you never have too much sanctuary where you can
In
Yes.
there for what kind of heating source?
wood.
Okay.
So there'll be a wood stove, be a 2-flue chimney.
Okay.
So there's stove upstairs, stove downstairs, or in the garage.
Okay.
There won't be any insulation, it's just to be able to heat it when you're working in there. I don't really care.
Calculating the difference between the 1996 and now, whether you included the little addition to the house, for instance? The house?
It's hard to tell, I mean, I didn't see, all I saw was the
How some of this stuff is calculated. If you're over the 10%, do you have to mitigate for anything over that 10% or just your newest stuff? I just don't know.
We're hoping and listening to Stinson and all that as a local conservation commission, and this is a pretty, within the scope of things, a fairly small piece we're looking at.
Normally we have a consultant who does the work and we know that they have the experience and the knowledge. You're doing it for yourself. It's a different sort of situation. So it hasn't come in all as we normally see things, and it doesn't have the same level of known expertise behind it. So I think it's just important to get a third party on that. And like I said, I just do not have the time to do this. We have too many things going on, and normally the things come in and they're more, I mean, you've gotten better organized now, but you know, it's been a while and we've gone through a lot of phases of things. And I think because you're already over that 10%, because of, you know, what you're doing with your site, I think it's just good business for us to make sure that it's accurate, that it's correct before we approve it.
I mean, and like I said, if I had the time to take a look at it, to look at dotting i's, crossing t's, I would. I don't have that time. We only have Janice one day a week. She stretches her time.
No, I certainly empathize with Janice.
We don't
and
have-
working with her and how much time she actually puts in beyond what she's
Right.
paid for, I think is probably considerable, just in what the communication I get with her.
I mean, we
Um,
have, if she was full-time here, that would be a different story. If we had, you know, a department where we could send it for review, you know, because typically a lot of towns now have an environmental engineering department where it goes, they have people who go, okay, I know how to look at this, I know how to look at that. They have 3 people, and in a day, they were able to do the review. We don't.
CMR, I can read English.
Yep.
And I can understand regulation, and paying people thousands to basically do, in terms of, not sure, the legitimacy of it, as in they have a name and a stamp. I can understand that. I was somewhat hoping that the fact that we have a local conservation commission that understands the local conditions and all, that we'd be able to see past that desire to basically have somebody else legitimize.
But I mean, we have people who, you know, who hired consultants who submit stuff to us that we then turn over to peer review. Questions from the audience?
Briefly, I'll be brief for you. First of all, I'm still curious about how this meeting came to be without the previous one, where he
So I'll see you in a month.
somehow got approval behind closed doors from the Zoning Board of Appeals for a public, what was supposed to be a public meeting, clearly bilaterally agreed to by both parties to extend the meeting so he could choose between the 2 options listed on this paper in here, and probably you guys are aware of it. If not, I can show it to you. The 2 options, one being on the boundary, one being back from the boundary. Supposed to choose which one he wanted, go home, think about it, come back, present the plan for that option to the zoning board, whereupon they would make a decision about him proceeding or not. That was the reason for the agreement. The meeting was closed, therefore we went all home, and I kept checking with Tim Nyhart and the town clerk, watching for the next meeting. We came to the deadline, we still hadn't had a meeting, so finally at the last moment, it's come to the surface that it actually was decided before that, but never mind. At the very last moment, and you know, we were handed the papers on this 15 minutes before the meeting, the conservation meeting, which explained how they had, it didn't explain anything, it just, it was a, anyway, supposedly he thought they approved something. When did they approve it? That's my question. When did they approve this? What meeting was held? There was no meeting held.
Right. Unfortunately, the Conservation Commission can't address what happened with the zoning board.
Agreed.
We have a decision from the
Okay.
zoning board, and that's what we have
Well,
to base that on.
Okay, well, we can go another direction on that, but I did want to bring to your attention
Right.
about that's how they came to the decision.
Right.
Not only that, but when he in his own words, he said he had to set it back, but it was already 10 or 11 feet there, already. You can measure it if you want, or you can correct me. To set it back from that would be farther than 10 or 11 feet, not 10 feet. And I think I've heard from more than one commission, and this commission and the zoning board, 2 people on the board of 3 in the zoning board suggested 15 feet. One person suggested 10 feet. That's the way it was written up. Okay, so well that's just so I do have an objection there. Again, I have an objection that any decision to build anything on that end of the property, due to the fact that the ground has not been properly identified or explained. For example, the swale. The swale has more fill than the rest of the land combined. Now, the DEP wrote a thing that was in the paper. No more filling, cutting of trees, and so forth, over into the basin of the river. You can see by the map the basin of the river, and that's where the swale is. So I'm astounded that it's a matter of you can go down there and cut all the trees down and then complain about the Japanese knot thing that comes in after that. Of course, we don't have it upstream. I'm not arguing it's there, but if it doesn't grow well in shade, then maybe you shouldn't have cut all the trees down. You know, and besides which, you ordered not to do that. So, and what about the fill down there? Now, I recently sent you a picture of a recent gravel fill that was applied down there on the road. Mr. Layton built as a jetty going down into the basin of the river and drives the tractor down. And it's not paved, but you know, you drive the tractor over something long enough and you might as well pave it. I mean, it's the same thing. At any rate, at the bottom of the swale, there's a big old patch of road gravel. Not fill gravel, road gravel. The same stuff that's put on the access road to our properties, all of our properties. So where did that, why is that not included in the comp storage discussion? Now, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, that anyone included that. So I think maybe you should take a look at that. Okay? So, same location. So you want to move it, you want to enlarge it to 28 times 26 instead of 2020. Now originally you said, okay, you can do something on the same footprint, which I don't agree with anyway, but for sake of discussion, that's bigger. You can, I know that right now you say you're not including the milk truck. Finally we got to that point. The shed on the fence, over 8 feet tall, it's been there, concrete footing on the boundary line. So that's, I don't know if that's been included. He talks about a slab in the barn itself, but not in the garden shed.
In the shed, he said too.
In the garden shed too,
yeah.
yes, in addition.
Yep, those are included in there.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, those are issues. Now, you build a 2-story building there, you put a workshop in there, it's full of tools, you move it back, and you put it right in front of our windows on our house. It's very close. Not only that, you're going to store hazardous materials there, you're going to store big machinery there, and then with all that in there, you're going to move your family in there, because either that or move the tools out. I mean, how can it be
Well,
both in a
that was
flood?
the clarification that we got, was
Sure.
that
Mhm.
that top story would be used for, as storage for equipment, not
Sure.
family.
Sure.
because
So how
house
can-
is
so-
above
right, exactly.
flood
So if
elevation.
you're going to use it for a refuge for your family, it's kind of a contradiction.
Right, well, but we clarified that that's not the purpose of it.
Now hazardous materials out there, I mean, my gosh, you know, the 84 flood, I was here for that. It was pretty bad.
Mhm.
I was drowned in that one. It was 84. 2011, I was in that flood. Now it filled our basement up. Boy, I know the power of that river, but I also know how many days in advance you have notice of any kind of flood that's ever been there in the 35 years I've been living here. If you watch the rise in the river levels, and there's certainly much internet access to all these things, how high it is, 115 feet, it starts breaking over our little curbing there. So I know. So how can you be surprised by any flood here unless the dam breaks and it comes to you? And if that ever happened and a 100-year flood came, believe me, I don't care what building it is, and even our own house, and possibly his, would be knocked out their foundations. And what, you think that shed, FEMA approved or not, is going to be there? What kind of erosion is that going to cause? Even a minor flood. And you're closer to the bank of the river. I think it was it's angled more like this. You know, you want to tell me what's going to happen here when it starts crashing through here and tearing off down the bank? Okay. Now, he also suggested there's the erosion control fence here, or wall.
Well, no, the erosion control.
Right here.
Right, that's during construction.
That's right.
That will be
Right,
removed
right,
after.
Right.
And that will be seeded and
Okay.
loamed in there.
Sure.
That will only be,
And it's all designed to flow this way, as it is now. And if you look there, there's a slope like this, where all the water from this property comes here and travels down here, where they put it in, not in here, but starting here, concrete blocks under the fence. All the way down here, he put some new ones down in the milk shed, all for the purpose of directing the water. Not to direct it to our land, don't get me wrong, but to direct it away from his. Now, in the past, back before 1996, all the water flowed evenly from here, the fields, all here. It did its natural thing. And all this land was continuous. In one kind of flowing way, went up and down, but it was still one thing. This property now is way, way higher. If you've been down there, you can see at least down in the swale, at least 2 feet or more. And the idea is to fill that hole right there and build up more.
no, that swale is
Well-
not going to be filled. The idea of that
It's-
swale is it will be replanted with a mitigation, which
Well,
mitigation would be the vegetation that would be planted there,
Right,
not
but
to
you first
fill.
have to remove all that degraded ground, wouldn't you? You're not allowed to put fill in there, are you?
No,
When did that become okay? The time, the DEP ordered that not to be, but it was continued.
Mhm.
And since that point in time, there's been much fill there. And transfer of sand here and moved up here and all that. So, and I want to know also, when you talk about compensatory storage, what about all the concrete that's made there, and where's it go? Where's all the concrete go? Is it hidden? Where'd it go? You should ask that question. That's a lot of concrete, man.
What do
So I
you
want to
mean
talk
by-
about yards of dirt. How about yards of concrete?
Where?
You know, all summer long, you make concrete right here, and it does things. I'm not sure if it's okay or not. I don't know. All I know is that it makes my windows rattle, so that's all I know about it. So, because it's right, here's our house right here.
That's a
There-
garage.
There's the daggone thing right there. I mean, it's right here, boom.
Yeah.
Now, this building being moved back that far, are you kidding me? Holy mackerel, here's real close. Furthermore, I understand the rule here about the road, but of course there's a rule everywhere around this property. First of all, it's all in wetlands, and second of all, this isn't a real road, it's a right-of-way. McKinstry's property, we all just have right-of-way there. It's not a real road. So do those rules apply to there? I'm not sure about that. Should maybe ask that question to the zoning board, right? And so there's a windmill
Yeah.
that is non-functional.
Well,
Okay, so why can't you build on top of the windmill when it's non-functional?
well,
You gotta remove
the,
Or remove it?
the planning
Remove it.
board looks at frontage
Mhm.
from your access point
Mhm.
and where, so the 50-foot would be from this property
Right,
line
right.
back in
Right.
this area.
But that's for a regular road. That's not a regular road. That's a right-of-way.
So it's
No.
on access.
Right,
Okay.
frontage equals access, so
Okay, I
they're
got you.
saying where your access point is at your
Nice try.
frontage, so that's the
Sure.
50-foot. That's where
Okay.
that came, that's where planning
But of
board
course,
got
I think
that.
that you might be able to get a variance there, as we got one here, and here, and here, and here, because which is more important, this or respecting the privacy of your neighbors? Because believe me when I tell you,
Well, that's a zoning board issue.
Right.
yes, it is.
That's
Back
a
to
place where
that.
you fight that. You can't fight that here, because
Okay.
that's already happened.
I know.
We can't undo that,
Okay,
Right.
all right. Well, and,
you know.
okay. Got it.
Any other points? Because we're running out of time.
I know. Well, I'm gonna pass this on. I think I've said enough for this time around. We're gonna have another meeting anyway.
Yep.
So let me go now. And I thanks for your time.
I think
I
it-
appreciate it.
Excuse me.
I really do.
Would you pass these
Oh,
out?
and
Please,
this maybe,
please, listen. 2 men and me, just one more, we're gonna have to share one.
oh my goodness, you guys have to share. I'm so sorry. I really am. But at your leisure, do along with all that other stuff.
Mhm.